Hi, good afternoon. Well, let's continue with the science chapter, isn't it? We have learned from the previous videos and understood how the universal consciousness was disconnected and altered by the matrix gods, including how the matrix was built to imprison the consciousness within its confined walls. Um, I remembered when I was awakening, I wanted to escape the matrix and I was transmuting like atomically and trying to escape, but there was this magnetic force that pulled me back and it just couldn't happen. But I did try. But we haven't covered yet is how a spiritual body, from a scientific point of view, became human and how from one universal consciousness the rest of the human race was born. These answers can only be provided now. We need the current advances in science, quantum physics especially, and the technological advances in what regards the building of humanoid robots using the latest artificial intelligence discoveries, which are mind-blowing. Yeah. We know spirit is consciousness, is the composition of our inner self and life force. Hence, it's a consciousness, cannot be created. But from a manipulated consciousness, many virtual infinite shapes, forms, artificial beings, and other forms of consciousness can be produced, giving the appearances of an inhabited planetary world. And an original universal consciousness can be duplicated, and not identically, but with the same blueprint into many others, whether they're artificial or biological human beings. Before delving into the complex science of how the original consciousness of Eve, the primordial mother whom we have been referring as that, the primordial mother, was duplicated, we need to understand the latest scientific discoveries from a molecular and subatomic level. I'm attempting to explain it in the easiest and most informal possible manner, the most modern scientific discoveries in an easy way that we all understand, leading how technology and biological science has been merged into creating the artificially engineered shadows, the human race with his altered consciousness and the virtual world that we perceive as real. Yeah. They seem to have forgotten that everything that has got a beginning has got an end. Yeah. Modern science is now revealing a world more beautiful than we could have ever imagined, isn't it? New layers of reality have been discovered that lie beneath the surface of our everyday reality, taking us into a journey beyond the boundaries of space and time. Quantum physics has, in effect, pushed the limited logical and rational mind beyond its boundaries, and in the process has shaken the very foundations of Newtonian physics. Instead of viewing science as an endeavor to eradicate mystery, more and more physicists are beginning to understand it is as a particular encounter with what is perceived to be the eternal mystery of existence itself. Existence is viewed as a secretive mystery that, for most scientists, encompasses both the wondrous glory and the unfathomability of existence. The cosmos is now conceptualized as an infinite ocean of energy that is organized into extraordinarily complex patterns, of which the human body mind is just one configuration of energy or a field of information. Scientists are first and foremost human beings, and therefore are likely as anyone else to turn a blind eye to the full implications of what they do. When those implications demand personal change, nobody likes changing. If everything is interconnected, and if the view that our ordinary reality is made up of discrete objects is largely a construction of our minds, then we must stop behaving as if we are separate beings and assume our essential oneness with everything and everyone. Suddenly, traditional ideas such as compassion, generosity, selfless service, forgiveness, non-judgment, and passion materialize within our hearts, isn't it? For some 400 years, science had developed under the spell of the ideology of materialism, matter being the ultimate touchstone of reality. By the end of the 19th century, that spell had become so overpowering that many scientists went as far as denying the existence of consciousness. It wasn't until 1960s was this bizarre trend removed, and under the impact of the psychedelic experimentation, psychologists began to look into the so-called altered states of consciousness. This opened up new areas of inquiry and creative thought. It also led to a new tolerance among scientists towards those things that are not immediately obvious or measurable, but are nonetheless important to a fuller understanding of our reality and worthy human life. I like what Capra, Fritjof Capra, as a physicist, said. It says, in contrast to the mystic, the physicist begins his inquiry into the essential nature of things by studying the material world. Penetrating into even deeper realms of matter, he has become aware of the essential unity of all things and events. More than that, he has also learned that he himself and his consciousness are an integral part of this unity. Thus, the mystic and the physicist arrive at the same conclusion. One started from the inner realm, the other the outer world. The harmony between their views confirms the ancient Indian wisdom that Brahman, the ultimate reality without, is identical to Atman, the soul, the reality within. For most realities, what we think it is, revealed itself to us by our conditioned experience and our limited five senses, which are frequency decoded, sight, smell, hearing, blah, blah, blah. Nevertheless, new science tells us a very different story. Understanding that our human experience is often a misleading conductor to the true nature of what we perceive to be real. Lying just beneath the surface is a universe is revealed that seems to be unknown, unpredictable yet elegant, and unlike anyone could have ever imagined. Let's go back to Isaac Newton, view space and time as an inert universal stage on which the events of the universe play themselves out. This is not far from the truth if we are able to understand how the conditioned universal mind projects into our universe. The universal mind uses the universe as the stage in which all its automated mental patterns play themselves out by those members of the human race that are asleep, spiritually speaking. For Albert Einstein, however, space and time were the raw material underlying our reality. Both illusions of space and time became the genes of physics, and scientists directing all their efforts in understanding of that which believed formed the true texture of reality. So for Einstein, time and space were basically the same. If we can bend the space, we can create a time loop and therefore create a wormhole. A wormhole would allow us to go from one place in space to another or from one point in time to another. But also, if we look at a wormhole from a higher perspective, it could cause a shift of consciousness, for instance, a connected to a disconnected state. Okay, so in order for an object, let's say a UFO, to be able to travel faster than the speed of light, they must break the laws of physics, showing that they're an illusion and that time is relative. Time slows down the closer we get to the speed of light, time dilation. Therefore, if the UFO travels at that speed, it could be here and there in no time. There could be no past or future for the UFO. There could be for us as we could see the UFO traveling from one point to another. Einstein was like a galactic count, like detective. He stated that the laws of physics are able to alter mass in an atom or a person or UFO and travel faster than the speed of light. So the UFO could get bigger and bigger, infinitely massive. But there is a loophole, a wormhole that may be at a detour against the speed of light. If you don't understand what they're saying, just bear with it because you will. Watch it a few times and you'll get it, yeah? And the shortest distance between 2 points might not be the line. A wormhole generated could fall a space itself. So let's say we've got 2 points and we could draw a line. But if we get a piece of paper and we go to hold, you can fold them and connect those 2 points, and that would be a wormhole. We could connect time and space, or what we call the Einstein-Rosen bridge, where we can go to different time zones. It's like forming a tunnel between 2 points. If you get a map and we fold it connecting, for example, New York and Barcelona, the wormhole is created 2 points that are connected. If you can manipulate a space, you can travel faster, you can contract a space and expand it. According to quantum and string theory, there are no mathematical restrictions from growing to one place to another or time travel. Yeah, but we'll look at this later. Because of course time travel exists. I have traveled past and future. No problem. We all have. Let's go to classical reality. Classical reality focuses on patterns found in our terrestrial and astronomical data, coming from an understanding that there was an order to a universe that could be understood by mere, mathematical analysis, as if there were an underlying design programming language. Therefore, classical scientists came from an understanding that all occurrences in a universe could be not only explained but also predicted. A core feature of classical physics, also shared by both special and general relativity, is that if the positions and velocities of all objects at a particular moment are known, the positions and velocities at any other moment, past or future, can be foretold. Stating that if the past and the future are imprinted into the present. So if we know the position and velocity, for example, that finger is going, I can predict what that finger will be going in the future. Is that clear? Newton used mathematical equations to understand and predict the motion on Earth and in the heavens in what had come to be known as classical physics. Newton did include the force of gravity in his equations, but it was later on the classical physics was extended to take into account other forces the metric is smallly dependent on, which is the electrical magnetic forces. For Newton, space and time were absolute and immutable entities, providing the solid foundations of a rigid and invisible stage that gave the universe shape and structure. Newton, being a world manipulator, a mason, understood the matrix very well. The matrix is solely based on technology and can be therefore understood and predicted by mathematical analysis. Space and time are merely embedded, and they are rigid mental patterns within our minds that give form and shape to our reality. And what science thought it was almost a finished theory was changed within a decade with Albert Einstein completed his special and general theories of relativity. Einstein determined that space and time were not independent and absolute, but relative, rewriting the laws of gravitational physics. Both Newton and Einstein were agents of the matrix, pawns at the hands of the matrix gods. Hence, whatever Einstein showed in his theories was manipulated information overseen carefully from above. Einstein was instructed to provide a further insight into our universe, yet far from the whole story. Some truth was provided, but it was cleverly distorted to ensure the universe and our origins were perceived as a complex and eternal mystery that could never be truly solved. Einstein, however, showed that the space and time are part of a unified whole, the matrix, showing that are flexible and dynamic, and almost as if this unified whole was self-aware, which it is, a consciousness. Right, in 1990s was the emergence of quantum mechanics. Scientists were forced to introduce quantum mechanics. They found that their newly acquired data from the atomic and subatomic realms were able to resolve and explain a variety of life mysteries, where the human race had been conditioned to envision a reality in which things are always definitely one way or another. Quantum mechanics shows a very different reality. Things become definite only when an observation forces them to settle on a specific outcome. Otherwise, they are partly one way or partly another. It could be infinite possibilities up to the act of observation. The outcome, therefore, cannot be predicted. Only the possibility that what is about to be observed will turn out to be one way or another. The emergence of quantum mechanics showed for the very first time in the history of science that the rigid and invisible stage that gives the universe the shape and structure only appear to be angeled into our manipulated and conditioned mind, yet it is dependent on the observer and therefore ultimately dependent on our state of consciousness. For the awakened individual, the invisible stage is made of our consciousness, and therefore there are unlimited forms and shapes that can be created in our reality. We can make a hymen and can be directed and hence predicted to turn one way or another. It's up to us. By the 1980s, researchers also confirmed what Einstein considered absurd and foolish, that there can be an instantaneous bond between the forms on the stage at separate locations, implying that something you do in an atom over here can be instantaneously linked to an atom over there, regardless of distance, able to transcend space and bypass spatial separation. Two objects can be as far apart in space, but as far as quantum mechanics is concerned, they act as if they're a single entity, challenging and pretty much overthrowing the classical and relative condition of how many of us view our world. This inexplicable bond can be easily understood if we view all there is in terms of one consciousness rather than fragmented and separated forms. More and more real scientists are beginning to communicate using the language of oneness, coming to the same conclusive evidence that we are all one. Everything is one consciousness that connects everything to everything else. Let's look at time and let's give an introduction for the next video. There is also a puzzle quantum physics have struggled with regarding the basic composition of time. It seems to have one direction, from past to future. People seem to grow up older, but they do not seem to get younger. Things seem to decay, but they do not seem to get regenerated. The arrow of time pointing towards the future have governed and manipulated our lives, yet nothing in the question of fundamental physics has provided any sign of treating one direction in time different from another. The clock seems to appear to our five-sense reality to always tick forwards in time. And this is because time is part of illusion of the matrix. There is no difference between past and future. There is only the present moment, where a conditioned mind will project one imprinted frame after another, containing a destined life situation, giving the illusion of time passing by. So scientists have unsuccessfully tried to explain this puzzle by linking our everyday experience with our early universe, where a highly ordered environment just after the Big Bang may have randomly imprinted a direction of real time. Of course, but they have definitely not solved the mystery. Right, okay, guys, I think more about this physics. They'll be about 15, 20 minutes long. If you don't understand, watch it again. It's basically introducing what's gonna come, and sort of recapping in history what classical mechanics and Einstein and basically all the theories that have come forward to where we are today. So it's very interesting. Keep on watching. Really gonna help you put things together. Become a little bit more an expert in science, which is quite good. People cannot argue with science, isn't it? Anyway, love you all unconditionally. I hope you're all good. Until next video, goodbye.